Hello, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Steve, and I'm joined as well by Anu and Lee. We're part of the customer success team here at Snap Projections, and we're available to help answer questions by email, phone, and screen sharing whenever you have questions related to use of Snap. Today's webinar will cover two main topics. The first will be a client case study with a corporation to demonstrate accumulation and decumulation strategies. We'll also show how to compare scenarios to one another and how to talk about which might be more advantageous for a client. We're going to show how the new capital gains inclusion rate might impact your clients. And then once we're done with the case study, Anu is going to take us through how to create a fully customized report, whether that's using the new snapshot as a one-page or an executive summary within a larger report. We'll show you how to do that in the software. The session has been reviewed by FP Canada and qualifies for 1 CE credit. We'll share more details on this process shortly. We'll also be recording today's session, so if you need to revisit anything that we do, or if you miss a section, we'll send out the recording shortly after the session ends. If you have any questions during today's session, please submit those through the GoToWebinar portal by clicking on the question mark. We'll do our best to answer your questions during the session today, and if we can't get back to them, we'll send you an email within the next few days. As I mentioned, this is eligible for CE credit, so 2 hours after this session is completed, attendees who stayed for the full session will receive an email with the video recording and a request to respond with your full name for the CE certificate. Once you complete the submission form, you'll receive a personalized CE certificate by July 31st. This credit is applicable for 1 CE credit in the category of financial planning for FP Canada certificates, and or 1 CE credit in the category of professional development for MFDA licensed representatives. Once again, we're going to be going through a full case study using a corporation to show accumulation and decumulation strategies. We'll show how to illustrate and compare drawdown strategies to best achieve the client's goals. We'll be modeling the impacts of changes to the capital gains inclusion rate, and we'll be creating one-page report snapshots and showing you how to include those within your broader report as an executive summary. And we've saved some time at the very end to make sure that we can get to as many of your questions as possible. If at any time you have questions while you're using the software, you can click on Help in the top right corner and then click on Help Center. And that's going to take you directly to our Help page where we have contact information to give our support team a call. You can also send us an email, or you can search for previous webinar recordings, articles, videos in order to help you with any inputs that you're looking to do at the time. With all of that in mind, let's jump into the software and start creating our projections. So I'm going to go into the clients page and click Add New Client. We'll be creating a series of projections today for our client who's Olivia Garcia. They were born 1972, and they currently live in British Columbia. As you're likely aware, in the top left corner of Snap, there are 3 main sections that you progress through when creating a plan. The scenario setup, where you enter in your base plan data, the planning pages, where all of that information comes together, where you can then customize for any year or period of time throughout the plan, and then the client report, where you can select what charts, tables, and commentary to include in a final PDF. One important note is that you can click on any of these at any time to navigate directly to that section of the software. I'll click Next to go to the General Settings page and continue on with the scenario setup. At the top, you'll see we actually have a pop-up banner, and if you click on the teal blue box for Use Guidelines, that will import the most recent FP Canada guidelines that were published at the end of April this year. So that has updated the cash, fixed income, and equity gross rate of return values. As a reminder, you want to reduce these values for any expected management fees. So I'm going to use 1%, 2%, and 5% as my base net of fee expected returns. Going back up, we're going to start the plan as of 2024 with a target retirement age of 60, a projection length of 100, and we'll use the default inflation rate of 2.1. I'll click Next and go to Expenses. Olivia is targeting $80,000 a year of base after-tax cash flow once she retires. The base expense value is the amount of money that your client needs for items outside of the projection. So this is separate from taxes, debt payments, contributions. Anything that you've modeled within the plan has already been accounted for, and the base and additional expenses are for items outside of the plan. We can also add an additional expense for an extra travel budget of $10,000 a year, indexed to inflation, starting at age 60 until age 74. We'll also highlight that so that in the chart, there's an explicit legend item calling out that goal so that we can show that it's fully funded. I'll click next and go to the incomes page. Typically, this is where I would input a client's employment income or other sources like rental income. In this case, I'm actually going to delete this input for the employment income because we're going to be adding Olivia's corporation and we're going to be paying her salary out of that corporate entity. So I'll skip the incomes page and go directly to assets. Here you can see Snap adds a non-registered account by default to all projections. This is to provide the software somewhere to allocate future surpluses. For instance, if you're downsizing a home or if the client has excess money in their RIF, this just allows Snap to allocate those surpluses into a financial asset to make the charts and tables more digestible. If the client already has a non-reg, you can of course delete the default account that's been added and input their own information. So we have a non-reg investment account, $50,000 value, $40,000 cost, and an asset allocation of 30% fixed income, 70% equity. We see that the rates of return are pulled from our general settings page, and then our total portfolio return is being calculated for us automatically. We can customize these rates on an account by account basis if we want, or we can leave those as our default. She also has a TFSA with 110,000 and an RSP with 325,000. Above the table of accounts, you'll see that there are tabs for each of the registered account types where we can customize additional settings. So I'll click TFSA and we can enter in if there's any carry forward contribution room. In this case, she just has the room available for the first year, so we'll leave that as is. And then for the RSP, we'll enter in her current room of $32,000. I'll go back to the assets page and then scroll down to the real asset section where I can input her home, which has a current value of 800,000, an original cost of 450K. We'll appreciate that with inflation. And we do have the option to purchase or sell a real asset in a future year and then indicate if there's capital gains applicable to that transaction. I'll click next and go to debts to input her mortgage. That has a current balance of 145,000, interest rate of 5%, and monthly payments of 1,800. We can link that to the home so that if we sell the property at any time in the plan, the mortgage will be repaid if there's still an outstanding balance. I'll click next to go to the government benefits page. Here we can customize the start age and either enter in a dollar amount or a percentage of maximum. So we're going to start as of age 65 for our base case. And then we could input a dollar amount if they're currently receiving their CPP or if they have a Service Canada statement, or we can enter in an expected percentage of maximum. You'll see by default, it started with the national average of 55%, and then I can adjust that based off of my client's history of employment income. So here we have 75% as our assumption, and then we'll use OAS at 65 with 100% of the maximum. On the left, there are additional input pages that we could use. We could add insurance policies, conduct life needs analysis to see if more life insurance might be required. We can add RESPs, and then we can customize additional settings related to the plan to refine the assumptions to our client's unique circumstances. Or we can click corporations and input her holding and operating company as a single entity. So I'll do that. I'll click corporations and then add corporation. So here I can input her company name. It's registered in British Columbia and qualifies for the full small business deduction rates. As we scroll down, you'll see that we can enter in notional account balances that the client has as of today. If you don't have this information available, you can always leave the values as 0, and that's just going to create a more conservative projection without the tax advantages that these notional account balances provide. If you do have the information, that's great. You can input it, and it's just going to make the plan more accurate. As a note, you don't have to worry about tracking these going forward in the projection. Snap will calculate the expected RDTOH, CDA, and GRIP. It's only the starting balances that you would input directly here. So I'm just going to enter in 15,000 for the RDTOH balance and 20,000 for the CDA. We can also customize the ownership and customize the assumptions that we want to use for disposing of the corporation. So whether we want that to happen post-mortem as part of the final estate, whether we want that being liquidated in a specific year of the plan, and then we can indicate whether we want the distributions happening through dividends or through a capital gain. I'll click next and go to the assets page to input the investment balance for the holding company, which is 500,000, original cost of 400,000, and a similar investment approach of 30% fixed income, 70% equity. On the left, once again, you'll see that we can input debts, insurance, and customize additional settings. We will run a projection shortly with an insurance policy added. So similar scenario setup capabilities that we saw on Olivia's personal side. Now that I'm done entering in all of my scenario setup information, I'm ready to proceed to the planning pages. Before I do that, I just want to pause and see if there have been any questions come in so far that we want to address before moving on in this plan.
Thanks, Steve. Basically just that we are recording this session, so there will be a link that is sent out afterwards. And that's it for now.
Yes, thanks, Lee. Awesome. All right, so we're done with our scenario setup. We'll click on planning pages, and that's going to allow us to view the information for the corporation first. So we have evolve design highlighted here. That's how we know we're in the corporate planning page. And these pages can be overwhelming the first time that you're interacting with them. The more you do, the more you know what you're looking at and how to navigate these pages, the more intuitive and powerful they become. On the left, we have the year and our client's age. We have the active business income. So this is essentially the operating business on the left. And then we have passive and investment income on the right. So this is the holding company. And it is recommended in Snap to model both the operating business and holding company as a single entity so that they can communicate with one another related to notional account balances and the small business deduction. For operating income, she's currently earning $450,000 a year into the corporation and expects that to continue until her last year prior to retirement. She's paying herself $200,000 a year from the corporation as salary. And she's paying $50,000 a year in additional expenses. So now that we've made our edits on the planning page, you'll see in the top right that anytime that we make a change directly on this page, the Run Scenario or Run Corporation button turns red. It just means that the changes that you've made have not yet applied throughout the rest of the scenario. So we'll click Run Corporation to update all of the other numbers. And now that it's green, we know that we don't have to click it anymore. All the numbers are up to date and we can continue on with our planning. We now have the net operating and taxable income of $200,000. That's being added to the investment income and all being taxed at their appropriate rates. The tax is being subtracted from the proceeds, and then the net amount is being deposited to the investment account on an ongoing basis. As a result of all of those contributions and ongoing growth, we have the account reaching a total balance of about 2.4 million. Now that we're done setting up the pre-retirement period for the corporation, we can jump back to Olivia's personal planning page. From here, we can enter in her ongoing contributions to her personal accounts. As a summary of what's available on this page, we have, once again, the year and our client's age. We have the calculated discretionary cash flow that the client has available after accounting for everything else input in the plan. So this 112,000 of cash flow is being calculated by taking the salary of 200K, subtracting off CPP and EI, subtracting off taxes, and subtracting off her mortgage payments. So that leaves her with 112,000 available to allocate towards savings or for spending needs. I'll go to the RSP and enter in her current contributions of 32,000, copying that down and indexing until retirement. I'll also enter in her TFSA contributions of 7,000 a year and copy that down until retirement. Now, if I wanted, I could enter in a higher value. For instance, I could enter 10,000. And when I click Run Scenario, Snap is going to try to contribute 10,000 into the account, but it's going to look forward to each future year and see what the expected maximum is and only enter in that maximum amount. So now we've entered in our contributions. Snap has updated the discretionary cash flow remaining. We can then scroll down to retirement at age 60 and see the target spending of 80,000 a year, indexed for inflation, plus our travel budget. And then Snap starts automatically withdrawing from our personal investment balances until we run out of money at age 69. So at the moment, in order to use the corporate money in our retirement drawdown, we do need to enter those values directly on the corporate planning page. So if we go to Olivia, you'll see that you have the ability to pay eligible, non-eligible, and capital dividends. And all of these are governed by the available notional account balances for the corporation. So it won't allow you to pay out more than you would be able to. As a quick and simple illustration, I'm just going to come down to retirement and enter in a total of 70,000 being paid out from the corporation, indexed for inflation, all the way to the bottom of the plan. I'll click Run Corporation, and now we can see what the expected balance is available in the investment account each year of the corporation. So we can see it eventually starts to draw down on the principal, and then there's about 800,000 left in the final year. If I go back to Olivia's personal page, we can now scroll down and see that as a result of those increased dividends, less money is being taken out of the personal account. So Snap is automatically recalculating everything around those dividends. And as we scroll down to the bottom of the page, we can see that there's still about $1 million left over personally. So in about 15 minutes, we've created our first base projection for Olivia. We've been able to show that she is on track for her target retirement spending of 80,000 plus that additional travel budget. We could review it in other forms like the charts, where we can see things like the base expenses, her additional travel budget, income taxes, mortgage payments, and contributions to financial assets. We can also see where that money is assumed to be coming from each year of the plan. And we can see the net worth. And all of these charts are fully interactable. We can exclude things like the corporation and real assets to give her a sense of her personal liquidity. And then if we want, we can include any of these in our report. So I'm going to update the title of this scenario to base case. And then we're going to copy this plan and see whether there are ways that we could adjust the corporate distributions to help her to more appropriately achieve her future goals. So before I move on to the second plan, I just want to pause and see if there are any other questions coming in at the moment.
Thanks, Steve. I guess just we had one question from Roger actually about modeling OpCo and HoldCo in the same corporation versus multiple corporations, and just a little bit of discussion on that.
Yeah, so it can be done either way. The main advantage of doing it as a single entity is you'll see the retained earnings automatically deposit to the holding company. In addition, if we were earning operating income above the small business deduction rate, that would get automatically added to the GRIP. And then if we have passive investment income greater than 50,000, that's going to automatically reduce the small business deduction value for the OpCo. So by having it as a single entity, you really get to take advantage of all of that integration. If you would prefer, you can model it as two separate corporations and then just show the transfers going in between the corporations as you need. We do have other training material available and help with corporate articles, videos, and previous webinars that we've done that might dive further into that topic.
Terrific, thanks.
Awesome. I'll copy this plan and then we'll do a second scenario where we'll optimize those drawdowns. So retirement drawdown optimization. And what I'm looking for within the plan, are things like the marginal tax rate. So if we're looking at the personal planning page, we can see the marginal tax rate while she's working is about 40%. Then that drops to 28% for the first decade of retirement, but then it spikes up to 38% for the rest of the plan. And in addition to the marginal tax rate spiking, we can also see that there's quite a bit of OAS clawback expected throughout this plan. So we can go to Evolve Design, and we can change some of the dividend distribution assumptions. So we had that 5-year period prior to OAS and CPP kicking in where we could likely take out more money. So I'm going to increase the non-eligible dividend to 150,000, copy that down until age 64. So you'll see those dividends have increased. And then once the client turns 72, I want to reduce the non-eligible dividends because their RIF is going to kick in, and I want to start paying out capital dividends of about 40,000 a year. And that's just going to provide them with tax-free income. So now I'll run the corporation. I'll scroll down towards the bottom of the page, and we'll see that Snap is automatically limiting my capital dividends if required in order to prevent me from overpaying from the expected notional account balances that would be available in that year. And we can track those from the balances table here, where it shows the GRIP, CDA, and RDTOH values for each year of the projection. So now that we've changed the distribution strategy, we can go back to Olivia's personal page and see whether that's helped. So now we have higher dividend payments here. We can see that that's resulting in a slightly higher marginal rate for the first 5 years. But then from 65 onwards, we're at that 28% consistently throughout the plan. And we've also almost entirely eliminated the OAS clawback. So now to see whether this is truly advantageous for the client, we can go to the estate before tax column, click on the final year's value, look at the expected estate after tax amount, click compare with other scenarios, and we can see that in our previous case, we were leaving her with about 3.8 million in the final estate versus 4.4 million with these optimizations. So this is both how you can refine a plan and then compare and show the value that you've added. These sorts of optimizations and steps towards a more optimal plan are on our roadmap to continue to add automation tools to help save time when doing this, but this is the process that you and those tools will follow. So now that we have our optimized scenario, I'm going to copy it once more, and we're going to show Olivia what would happen to her plan if the proposed capital gain rate changes go forward from the most recent budget. So I'm going to retitle this plan, Scenario 3, Proposed Capital Gains Inclusion Rate Impact. Now, as a default, because these proposed changes have not yet received royal assent, the software is still currently using 50% for all of its base projections, but we've added within the scenario setup settings income taxes page the ability to experiment by introducing the proposed capital gains rules now. And this was primarily done because there are some potential planning opportunities ahead of the June 25th proposed date, and because some clients are quite interested what the impact would be on their plan. So instead of having it never applied, you can click on that and either immediately start it in 2024 of your plan. This will assume that all capital gains that are realized in the projection are done at that higher inclusion rate, or you can do it as of 2025. And this would allow you to model transactions occurring in 2024 prior to the June 25th cutoff. So this would essentially allow you to compare a scenario where you liquidate part of their portfolio at the lower rates and compare that to another scenario where you liquidate it in the future at higher inclusion rates. So in this case, because I'm not doing any analysis for the immediate year, I'm going to start with 2024. That's going to assume that all gains are at that higher rate. And I'll go back to the planning page to see the impact. So there's a few ways that I can kind of see the impact of the higher taxes. I can go to the corporation, go to the taxable investment income column, and then click on the detail expansion. So here the capital gains are now higher. They're the 66% inclusion instead of 50%. And then if we look at the notional account balances, the amount of the amount of CDA that they're receiving is only a third instead of half of the gain. So as a result, we can see, there's less capital dividends being paid out in this plan because the room runs out earlier. And if we go back to Olivia's personal planning page, we can scroll to the very bottom and see that as of the final year, her after-tax estate has dropped to about 4.1 million. So as a result of the higher taxes, she's lost about 360,000 from her expected estate. So we can show her, even though the proposed changes will impact her taxes and her plan, she is still well funded and ahead of plan for her target retirement. So we can provide that reassurance. So with the proposed changes coming down, clients might be interested in considering alternative strategies for their corporations. In this case, with Evolved Designs, we can see that there is surplus expected at the end of the plan that they don't need for retirement spending. So we can copy this plan and do one final scenario where we illustrate use of a corporate insurance policy to see whether that might be advantageous for her goals. So I'll just update the title. Scenario 4, use of corporate insurance. I'm going to enter the corporation, go to scenario setup, and then insurance. I'll add a new corporate policy. It'll be a whole life insured on Olivia. And then when I click on edit death benefit, you'll see that there's an input table available. And you can actually copy and paste directly from Excel or an insurance quote provider directly into the software. So I've just copied from another Excel table, and I can paste the death benefit, cash surrender value, cost base, and premium directly into the software. So now that we have the policy added, you can see on the planning page all of the details related to that corporate policy. We can also see that the premium is being deducted from the cash flow before it's deposited to the financial assets. As a result, there's less money for investment purposes, and that leaves a slightly lower surplus in the financial assets as of the final year. So once more, we'll go to Olivia's personal page, scroll to the very right-hand side to the estate before tax, and in the final year, we can see whether this would be advantageous for her case. So here, 4.7 million compared to 4.1. So for her specific use case and our expected insurance quote, it would be advantageous if she lives to this life expectancy to proceed with that strategy. So this is a way that you can illustrate different alternative investment approaches, whether it's changing the portfolio settings, the asset allocation, or anything else. You can show your clients how they might navigate their corporate entity going forward. So now that we're done our 4 projections and we have our recommended scenario, which will be this scenario 4, we're ready to proceed to the client report, where we can select the charts, tables, and commentary that we want to ultimately include and share directly with our client. So to walk us through that process, I'm going to pass it over to Anu, who's going to show the client report in detail.
Thanks, Steve. Give me 1 second. I'll quickly move the plan over to myself and start sharing. I hope everybody can see my screen. Thanks again, Steve, for showing us all the scenarios in detail. Now, let's take a look at how we can use our snapshots under reports to present this information to our clients, in this case, Olivia. Now, there are multiple ways to create reports for clients, either by presenting the information in 1 to 2 pages report using our snapshot feature, or by creating a detailed report summary, including all the charts and tables. Now here, what you see is what our snapshot looks like. It's a crisp, simple 1-page report. You're able to create a very quick summary to the client plans that you have created. Using our new snapshot feature in reports can significantly increase the value of financial projections in the plan by creating engaging and digestible client reports. You can use this snapshot to summarize a large amount of information in a client-friendly manner by using a combination of visuals, as you see right here, bulleted text, and headings to better understand the projection. The best thing is that you can use snapshot features to present either this as an entire projection in 1 or 2 pages that you can offer a quick summary to the clients, or another way to use it is to include the snapshot in a detailed executive report where you are able to share all the information, including all the charts and tables with your clients, which will have the detailed projections of their incomes, expenses, and just presenting the detailed one, and it will basically have all the information for the clients like their expenses, net worth, cash flow, estate details, and even corporation. So in this template, we have the detailed executive report where you can present, and this also includes the snapshot page right here along with the full detailed summary following right after that. So now let's see how we can create a snapshot like this for our client Olivia. And so what I'll do is I'll go back to the plan that Steve last worked on. So I'm going to click under Olivia, go under our use of corporate insurance plan, and I'll click under client reports. So when you click on client reports, you'll see 3 tabs to look at. First is going to be the report builder, where you will create the report by picking the pages that you want to present to your client. Once you have selected the pages, you can then go under report editor, where you're able to make the changes to the reports and the pages that you have included. And finally, you can go under report preview, where you're able to review the report in detail. And if you're happy with it, then you can go ahead and generate the PDF. All right, so what I'll do is to make things quick, I'll quickly jump under report editor and show how we can create a snapshot for Olivia. So I'm gonna first go and make the settings to my original settings so we have all the pages right here. Now under report builder, you will find the included pages section, which will give you all the pages that you can include in the client reports. Any pages that you see here will be a part of your final report. And then on the right-hand side, what you see is the gallery, which provides a detailed library of all the pages that you can include in the client report. Now, if you want to see the details of these pages and what exactly does it really have in each of these individual pages, you can hover over these question marks to find a little description of that page or that section. Anything that you see crossed off under the gallery is already included under the pages. So as you would notice, I have all the pages included right now under the included pages section. Now to create the snapshot, it's actually really quick. All I need to do is right beside included pages, I'll click onto the snapshots only button. And that's it. We have the snapshots included and ready to either be generated into a PDF, or we can go ahead and customize it further. Now, if in your plan you do not find the snapshots section under the included pages section, then you can go under the gallery and click under snapshots. And now you will see that it has all the snapshot pages only. It's crossed off in my case as they're already included. And then what you can do is you could either use mouse options. So I'm just hovering over these to show what all options you have. You can either use mouse to drag and drop the snapshot pages from the gallery over to the included section, or you can simply press A+S under the gallery section and all the pages will move from the gallery to the included pages, which are all under snapshots. As you do that, you will find the snapshot pages are right here. Now, the other pages that you notice are grayed out because we are only focusing on snapshots at this point. And here, my job is done. We created snapshot report for the client, and we can now go ahead and download it as a PDF. However, if you want to make any other changes, maybe you want to change the sequence of the sections or the cards in snapshots, you can do that as well by using your mouse, and I can maybe make the recommendation summary go at the top or change it again back because I prefer the original settings better. But depending on how you want to present the data to the client, you want each of these cards to show on the snapshot page. You can actually drag and drop the sequence on the snapshot cards. Once we are good with this and happy with the sequence and what we are thinking about presenting, I can simply go ahead and generate the PDF right away. But if you want to make further tweaks, we can go back to report editor, which is our next step. And under the report editor, we'll only find snapshots section. That's the only piece we are presenting. So I'm going to start with the first page. The first page we'll edit is the goals summary. Here you'll find a section that you can use to present to your clients a summary of their goals. Some information, as you have noticed, is pre-populated. However, you can customize this summary by either adding additional text or by adding some dynamic template variables such as retirement age, retirement year, etc. You can also remove any of these pre-populated text and template variable information. Now, the template variables on the right-hand side are really helpful to get the information from what you initially input under scenario setup and on the planning pages, making it really handy to create information that you want to add for the client. Clicking on the template variable uh, with your mouse cursor will place a dynamic value, as I'm doing it right now, into the comments section where your text cursor is located. Here is an example on how you can add a line into the summary page using a combination of simple text and a template variable. So I'll create something right here just to add in an extra point. I'll maybe type in additional travel budget starting at, and then I can put in age this. In the retirement years, I want to pick that, and that's it. Now, you don't really have to remove or add anything, but you can keep more relevant information and add any additional as needed. The main consideration is how large you want that section on the snapshot page to be. As you include more information, more room will be allocated to that specific card in the snapshots. This is applicable to all the cards that allows you to enter information right here. Now, the next section we are looking at is assumption summary. I did move around a few pages, so it has changed for me slightly. Now, the assumption page will include other information like client's name, life expectancy, inflation rates, and rates of return. Again, we can use the template variables to add any additional information. Finally, I want to look at goal status. So here we are looking at some potential option and what the goal progress is at the very top. It's currently blank for me, but we can actually go back to the planning pages and maybe share some potential options with our client, Olivia. So when I go under back to planning pages and click under recommendations, we can run a few calculators that we can present onto our goal status page. So I'm going to click under sustainable spending for Olivia and see how we will reflect this analysis onto our snapshot page. So I'm going to close it and actually come back to client reports under report editor and look at goal status. So it did add an additional point, what's now saying spending this much more per year because that's an option for Olivia. I'll probably add in another one to share some more potential options for her. So maybe leaving a larger estate for the beneficiaries. All right, so there's another additional bullet point I've added in. Now, there are also additional pages and sections that you can review, like financial asset flows, net worth statements, and other pages that you're able to see. Some of these are not editable and simply give us an easy chart to review. Finally, I want to click on a recommendation summary and maybe add in just a quick few points for Olivia right here. So I'll copy paste some that I had already created for her and just add them right here. Perfect. All right, and that's it. We have our snapshot customization done. I'll quickly go under report preview to show you how the snapshot will look. It looks really neat and detailed, which is very easy and really concise to present to the clients. And this is a quick 2-page summary for Olivia's plan. Now I can go ahead and generate the PDF and share it with her. And this is how you can create a full snapshot. But what if you want to make use of this snapshot and make it a part of your detailed executive report? So if you want to do that, we will go back to the report builder again and probably add in more pages that are relevant to our client's plan and goals. So I'm going to go under included pages and click on no filter, and this will bring back all the pages that I had originally in our included pages section. Now, either you will see pages under the included pages section or under the gallery. I have all the pages right here. So I can basically create a big detailed executive summary, but I still want to remove a few pages and maybe change their sequence based on what's more relevant to my client discussion. Now I can review the pages that are included right here. It comes with a little description, so it tells us what that page will have exactly. And I'm going to go ahead and delete a few additional pages. Maybe right here, I'm not going to look at asset allocation. So all I need to do is select it and delete them. I'm going to delete maybe a few other pages right here. Now, another thing you would notice as a part of these pages, we have this corporation, the Evolve Design corporation pages. So for this, I don't want to share so many pages with Olivia. So I'll probably only stick with the net worth statement and the cash flow projection and delete the other two pages. And another thing that I can do now is to change the sequence of it. So I'll move the recommendation details a little bit before our corporation pages. And I think I'm good with the report. So if you're happy with the pages that you have selected right here, or in this case, the sequence that I'm happy with, I can actually go ahead and select this as a template for any plans that I create in the future. So if I want to keep this as my sequence save, I need to click Save and then go under the Defaults button and then click on Save the current page settings for new scenario. All right, so if you would notice under defaults, there are a few other options we can look at. We can always use original settings for new scenario. We can come back and reset or reset the current page settings to saved settings. So maybe if I made any changes and I don't like the sequence, I can go back to my template settings or even reset the page to the original settings as well. Now, you will find our default button in different pages in the reports. You can create templates under those pages, and it will make your report creation process a lot less time consuming for all the future reports that you make for your clients. Now, let's quickly review some other options that we'll find under the report builder page. So you can add in a custom page. So under custom pages section, we can add in a custom page, which will create a blank page for you to input any additional information that you want in a separate page for your client. So I'm going to delete this and look at the next option. We have header settings. So you can also edit any header setting, add in any custom text right here, which is especially very helpful if you're creating multiple plans and sharing them with your clients. And lastly, we have printer settings where you can edit the report to set it correctly before printing out the reports. Now, we can next go under report editor. So here you'll see from the first page until the very end, including the snapshots. So we are able to review all of these pages. We can add in a logo right here. Again, we have the default buttons to make changes and select these. Now, if you prefer working with very similar information and want to create templates for yourself and just need to make a few probably details for different clients, you can do that and set it as a default. Note that the default option is not applicable on all the pages. You only get few pages that have default settings where you can create templates. They're mainly the ones where you can add in text and make any changes. Now, because
Anu,
everything else,
sorry, can I
yeah,
just jump in for a sec?
for sure. Yeah.
Just to discuss again the defaults there, we've had a couple questions. So when you create, if you can highlight the defaults and what those options are, we'll just talk about them one by one here.
Yeah, for sure.
So if we save the current page settings for new scenarios, that means that anytime you add a new client or you create a brand new scenario for an existing client, that will be what you see automatically on this page is whatever you've set here as your saved current page settings. But if you end up going onto an existing client or you've copied a scenario and you want to use what you've saved as your settings, then you're going to say reset current page to saved settings. So you can always pull in the settings that you've saved, or the other options have to do with original settings. So we let you go back to the defaults that are from the beginning, and this would be, for example, including all pages in your report if you're under the included pages. So it gets you back everything and in an order that makes sense for snapshots as well. So that's a great one to use if you just want to kind of go back to original settings. And then if you always want to use the original settings for any new scenario that you create, then you would use that option. always use those.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee. All right. So yeah, and like I said, you will find these default options in a few of the pages where you can add in any text and keep that for as a template for your future reports. Now, what I want to do in this case is maybe go under recommendation details and perfect. We have some notes right here, so I can again select default and maybe keep it as a template for myself. And once we're happy with what we have as a report for this client, we can go under report preview and take a quick look at the detailed executive summary for this client. Now, again, this could be more detailed as much as you want. I only included a few pages and even removed a few. However, you can create a detailed executive summary with, again, as many pages as you want. Now, as I'm happy with this report, I can now go ahead and generate a PDF by clicking onto it and review it. And that will give us all, and that has given us all the complete steps for creating a report for the client, including the snapshots here. Now, I hope you found this useful and ready to create reports using snapshots in your client plans right away. As a final note, I want to address one very commonly asked question that we get from our users, and that is, what pages should I include in the executive report? So back to Report Builder. Now, the one thing is that it could really mean different for different clients based on what their goals or focus of discussion is. But a few things that you can consider is, if you have a client and a spouse plan. Now, in this case, we only had Olivia, so we only had individual pages for her. But if you have a client and a spouse plan, you'll have combined information for the client and the spouse together, and individual pages for their financial incomes, net worths as well. Now, you can consider only including the combined pages to make your report more concise. And another tip in this case would be to only focus on the pages that are most relevant to the client goals. Example, if they're only focused on their net worth or cash flow or estate, you probably want to include those pages and maybe even have them ahead in the sequence of the report that you want by changing the sequence of those pages. Finally, I would like to also quickly show you some short and long sample plans that you can use as template before creating reports. So if you go under this help button and go to help center, you can type in sample reports here. And if I go under our Snap Projections Toolkit article, we have both short and long sample plan. These are sample reports created for you to probably use them as template or use them as a guide when you're creating plans for your clients. And you can find a lot of helpful templates or good sequence that you can work with. And as a last note, I know because everybody registered and you're watching this session, but if you want to maybe have more discussion around snapshots or want to dive in deeper with us, you can go under our Help and Help Center and join us for our drop-in sessions, which are happening next week. So I'm going to go under, webinars, and go under our live walkthrough support sessions. We have our drop-in sessions focused on snapshots coming up. So we have 2 sessions happening next week and another one happening the week after that. So again, thank you so much. I hope you found this discussion on report creation helpful. We'll now open to any questions to see if there's anything we can help you with.
Thanks, Anu. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
think that was fabulous. You did go a little bit quickly for some people, I think. So maybe we'll just review a little bit. We'll go into a little bit more detail and go a little bit slower now that we have 10 more minutes. So we have lots of time. Yeah, so as Anu said, we do have more sessions coming up next week to drop in, and we'll just kind of review this a few more times with you, and feel free to ask more questions. We know that there's a bit to learn here, so we're trying to balance the flexibility of all the things you can do, and then teach you ways to kind of really easily incorporate this into your report. Having said that, Anu, maybe you could just show them under help where you can access the 2 articles that we have right now about snapshots.
Absolutely. So if you're in Snap and you've logged in there, you can, on the top right-hand side, you can go under the Help, click under Help Center, and you can either type in report or make use of these tiles right here. I'm going to go under Client Report tile. Now we have 2 articles called, under Creating Snapshots and Customizing Summaries in Snapshots. I'm going to open both of these. All right, so creating snapshots has a quick video done by Steve where you can go over all of the information, how you can create the sample reports. I really want to go and show the templates that you can possibly create here. Perfect. So here we are. We're looking at a few template options. So you could either create a one-page financial plan, which is very similar to how I showed you at the start, or you can look at a two-page annual or quarterly review plan, which would have more details. And then finally, you can create, as we walk through the executive summary within the reports as well. And the other article lets you look into each of these sections and how you can customize each of these sections, especially focusing on template variables and the details around that.
Thanks. Yeah, so definitely there's a lot of information there if you wanted to take a look at some of that. And we've been having some great feedback from our users who are already starting to use it and sharing this information with their clients. And we've also had some questions about things that maybe aren't as obvious when you first start using it. So I'd like to go over some of those now just to share that to help you out. One thing that we did want to also mention was how could you, if you were just going to include snapshots only in your report, and so you maybe just want to include a cover page and snapshots with some sort of a disclaimer, how could we go about doing that, Anu?
Absolutely. So let's say we are in client report. I'm under report builder, and I want to maybe simply add in a cover page, note to reader, just the snapshot pages, and maybe a little disclaimer either within snapshot or outside snapshot. So first thing what I want to do is go under custom pages and add a custom page. Maybe I could call it a disclaimer page, and that's it. Now I'm going to go back to the included pages section. I will first create a blank slate under included pages section. So I'm going to do Control Command A on my keyboard. I find that keyboard access is like super easy. You can also use the drag and drop option that's always available. And I'll pick everything and move it onto the gallery. Now what I'll do is I'll add in a cover page. I'll add in a note to reader. So those are the two pages I want. I'll click save so I know that this information is saved. Now I only want to add in snapshots. So I'll again go back to the keyboard options, look at what those are, press A+S, and here we go. So I have a cover page, note to reader, and all the pages under snapshot. But we also added that custom page. So I'm going to go ahead and include that and merge it as a part of our snapshot right here. So now it's a part of the snapshot page, a disclaimer. I can drag it outside to make it like an individual page here, but maybe in this case, let's show everybody how we can add it as a disclaimer. Now, if I
So
want,
Anu, can you just explain a little bit? So right now you can see that snapshots, all of those page like cards are indented a little bit. So
right,
every regular page, it's a full-size page. It has a little icon on the right to indicate that it's full size. And snapshots pages have the little icon that's like the little two pages.
yeah,
So the ones that have both, so the disclaimer that she added as a custom page, it can be either or. So depending on where you drag it under included pages, it'll either be a snapshot, because right now it's under the snapshots header and it's indented, or if she drags it out of the snapshot, it's now a regular page, it's a full size page. So those are your two options. So if you pull it back into snapshots, we can see what it looks like as part of the snapshot.
Yep. So if we actually pull it back in, it will then be a part of that one pager or two pager snapshot. If we keep it outside, then it's a separate page within a part of our report. So what I can now do is once we have this, we can go back to report editor to make a few tweaks. I'm gonna probably, so again, we have the cover page, we have note to reader. Maybe I want to copy this and go under disclaimer notes and add this as a part of our disclaimer. Now under report preview, once we have all of that, we see our main page, we see our note to reader, we have the two-pager summary, and the disclaimer section is a part of our snapshot itself. So if you want to add in anything, I know I've only mentioned disclaimer, there could be any other information that we can add in because it's just a custom page. We can make our own heading and it put in the information that we want.
Yeah, so if you've decided to keep it in the snapshot only, then you could delete the note to reader, which again, you go back to report builder to deselect that item. And there's a couple ways to remove it from your included pages. Anu's doing it so quickly because it's pretty simple. All you have to do is click on it and press delete,
Yep.
or you can click on it and drag it outside of included pages, either back to the gallery or just outside to the left as well.
Right. And then again, like I can do the same thing for disclaimer or any of the pages that I prefer.
Right. Okay. I think other thing that I wanted to mention was sometimes people like to print in portrait mode as opposed to landscape. In landscape mode, the snapshots fit 2 tiles across.
Mm-hmm.
So if we were to change our print settings to portrait, it's another option. It's just going to mean that you'll have more pages of snapshots because they won't all fit side by side and they'll print below each other. So just to take a look at how that looks.
So I went under printer settings, change our paper orientation to portrait. Now I'm going to directly jump under report preview to see how that looks like. So everything is in portrait mode, especially if you look under our snapshot, we don't have the tiles or the cards showing up side by side. We see them in sequence. And earlier when we had it in landscape, we could see the page using the whole width, and we could see a lot of cards side by side as well.
Right. And you can also change your margin size. You can make things narrower margins as well as normal margin. Also, when you're making the snapshot, so it really is going to depend on the order that you list things under your included pages, how your snapshot is going to look. So the order will be top to bottom is how it's going to go. Kind of the first one is the first tile, and then beside it will be the second one. Underneath will be the third if you're in landscape mode. And it tends to look great when you have 2 charts side by side and other tiles that have the same amount of text in them. So that way you can revert back to the defaults if you wanted to see kind of what Snap suggests as if you had included everything. It will have an order that really looks really nice. If you start moving things around, then you can just jump to the preview, especially when you have the snapshots filtered and you're just looking at the snapshot view. When you do the report preview, you'll just see the snapshot. So that's at the top right, Anu, if you can just point out that filter again.
So sorry, going back to
so above included pages there.
Yeah. All right.
When
Yeah.
you
Sorry.
have the
The snapshots
filter,
only, and
yeah, snapshots
right
only.
here as well.
Yeah. So those are some options that you can, if you just want to take a look at your snapshots, filter it on snapshots only. The rest of your report is still there. It's just grayed out because you're not using it right now, but it will still be there when you take the snapshots only view off by selecting no filter. Yeah, so I think that's really helpful to be able to do that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to point out was when you create a brand new report, a brand new client, you've added a new client and you're creating the report, you'll see the snapshots are going to be included by default unless you've saved your own previous template. But for existing clients, it's just going to use what you had before, and when there were no snapshots, then it doesn't include any snapshots. So how can you bring that into your existing report quickly? Anu's already mentioned you can use the AS keys to bring snapshots in. Because sometimes people have said, do I have access to snapshots? I don't see them. All you need to do is come here to Report Builder, Included Pages, AS to drop in your snapshots, and then go through them on the report editor, see if there's anything you want to add to them, any comments you want to add, especially for goal status, where you have the goal status as a percentage, like you're 100% funded or you're not quite funded enough. That's when you want to go back to run recommendations to calculate perhaps what's the required savings to meet your goal, or what is the later retirement age that would work for you. So any of these that you've calculated will become visible in the snapshots, but until you calculate them, they're not available in snapshots. So that is one key thing to keep in mind. Because here Anu is just done sustainable, but if she goes back to the planning page and does recommendations and just calculates, for example, retirement age or available savings, once these are calculated, you don't have to apply them to your projection, but you can then go to the report and that item will now be available in your goal status snapshot view.
I'll probably do this one more time. But so because we have corporations included, some of these might not be very accurate. But as I have this here, I go back to report editor, go under gold status.
And then you can reset to defaults if you want a new. You could say
Yep.
at the bottom, reset to original.
So I'm just gonna say reset to original settings, and perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Sure.
it pulls in anything extra that you have the information for. It's going to try to put it in for you automatically.
Awesome.
Okay, and now we're at 2 o'clock. I just see the time.
I just wanted to point out one more thing. So whenever we are changing the sequence and we want to keep it as a template, we want to make sure we first click the save button, and then we go under the defaults and then say save current page settings for new scenario, just so that it ensures that we have saved in the sequence that we now like, or any other edits that we have done. And then we go under default and save the current page settings for new scenario to make sure that it is then saved as a default option.
Terrific.
Awesome.
Well,
Thanks,
really
Lee.
appreciate everybody coming today. And as you can tell, we're really excited about this new snapshots feature. Love to hear what you guys think about it. We'll be sending out the recording later today, and more tips and tricks are coming. We want to make sure everybody knows how to use this and is comfortable.
Awesome. Thank you everyone for joining in. Thanks, Lee. Thanks, Steve.
Okay, bye everybody.